Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Please remember to like and subscribe. They believe they had previously witnessed Kody Brown being tested. On video, they observed the disputes, the rifts in the family, and the gradual erosion of trust. However, there are no safe spaces, no understanding editors, and no one who is interested in your background, your title, or your justifications in the Moroccan desert. The cast is revealed. The program will air late September. Indeed, it was also quite thrilling. September 25th. We did do a lot of traveling with the family, so it was very thrilling to be able to eventually tell people what our summer surprise was. After that, Sean and I went on this excursion alone. It was a collection of once-in-a-lifetime occurrences. To be honest, it was epic. We had a great time doing it together. 10 days of being deprived of comfort at the hands of persons who are aware of your worst shortcomings and will take advantage of them. What took place outside left Kody silent, the fans guessing and the cast buzzing. Though certain people certainly know how to get under your skin, I can't think of anyone right now with whom I didn't get along. A challenge was generated in the air by Gia Judy's level-headed and slightly playful voice. She didn't say his name. She didn't have to. The clue was obvious to anyone who watches reality TV. The cast of Season 4 of Special Forces World's Toughest Test was announced by the entertainment press a week prior. This, announced with the intention of igniting discussions and bringing together influencers, former child stars, fan groups, athletes, and a few real housewives. Then, in the midst of the commotion, a name caused Sister Wives viewers to pause, blink, and read it once again. Brown Kody. He had led one of the most contentious households on reality TV for almost 2 decades. His private life was like a long study in stress and betrayal. 18 children from marriages and plenty abundance of drama to occupy hours of network. Airtime. The precise categories of an endurance challenge that was team-based did not apply to his name. It belonged to the sound of slamming doors, unpleasant family gatherings, and households where there was a lot of emotional pressure. The Society of Sister Wives burst into incredulity. Comments flooded in, and the number of threads increased. How come he would do this? Who sent out the invitation? Is Robyn aware? The cultural collision was startling. Special forces pushed aside ego in favor of perseverance and teamwork until only the group mattered. Kody was raised in an environment where grudges were publicly displayed and alliances broke up in whispers. It was nearly unthinkable that he would be transporting sandbags alongside experienced athletes and strong rivals. The secrecy was what made it even stranger. According to several sources, the majority of his family was unaware of his involvement. Training and filming took place in secret for months, and the reality wasn't revealed until everyone else found out. Many of his kids already feel alienated from him. This information must have felt like a chill wind blowing through a neighborhood that was familiar yet deserted. Not only was a crossover unexpected, but it also had significance. Special forces took great satisfaction in dismantling obstacles and creating bonds via common hardships. The consequences of weakening connections were frequently depicted in Sister Wives. Unity was necessary for one setting to survive. The other was a classic example of division. There was more to the announcement than just casting news. It was difficult. What if a man who thrived on dominating? Would a focal point in each room work in an environment where authority was delegated to others and hierarchy was flattened? How would his instincts for reality TV dictate the plot? And how would his image stand up in a situation when the goal is to expose the true person beneath the facade? Speculation intensified in the days that followed. Gia's quotation reappeared, this time accompanied by a picture of Kody standing in a queue of strangers who would soon be his sole friends, at least temporarily. The tension was simple to imagine. Before the cameras began to roll, it was bubbling. Additionally, the question for many who had witnessed him avoid public challenges in recent years was not whether he would crack, but rather when. This was just the beginning of his seclusion. Instagram became a public show of love in the hours after the cast was revealed. The cast members kept fans thrilled by tagging each other in stories, adding heart and fire icons to each other's posts, and writing passionate captions. I can't wait to work with you on this. Already my ride or perish. With the exception of one account, the pattern is evident if you scroll through their profiles. The post by Kody Brown was noteworthy. It had a short message and a well-cropped promotional photograph. There were only a few likes from devoted fans, no humorous exchanges, no inside jokes, no enthusiastic remarks from other competitors, and a quiet that said more than words could. These early friendship gestures are more than just pleasant ones in reality TV. They have a function. Making public connections with other celebrities can expand your audience, attract their audiences, and create the anticipation of on-screen chemistry. In this instance, the absence of these exchanges generated conversation. Screenshot comparisons began among Sister Wives fans. Take a look at how much love G is receiving. Check out Kody's now. It would be simple to dismiss this as timing, as if his post hadn't been viewed by the appropriate individuals yet. However, for days, the pattern persisted. Tags flew amongst the cast members whenever someone else posted a reaction from the set or shared a throwback from training, but not at him. The gang seemed to have come to an unwritten consensus. They may have similar challenges on screen, but their alliances were already obvious on the internet. This type of social seclusion was not a trivial problem for Kody, whose public image has long depended on being the center of attention for a huge family and a loyal television audience. It conveyed a strong message that anyone used to the workings of reality television PR could see. It was no accident that others received such a warm greeting. The irony was startling. Here was a man entering a format that encourages solidarity, making his debut alongside others who were already coming together as a group before the season had started. However, he was by himself in the one location where he could have begun fostering goodwill on an impartial, regulated digital platform. For supporters watching from a distance, the outcome was easy to foresee. What would happen under the extreme pressure of Special Forces training if his connections with the cast looked like this in the secure environment of social media? There was more to the blank area beneath his tweet than just a dearth of hashtags and emojis. It hinted at what was to come. Furthermore, he would encounter more difficulties in Morocco than just a chilly reception. As someone who knows a big crowd is watching, Gia Judith picks her words carefully. In the most recent, she talked positively about her time on Special Forces on a podcast episode, describing the cast as powerful and inspiring and described the experience as amazing. She highlighted the connection she developed, the exceptional chance to go through such difficult times with her mother, and the sense of solidarity that resulted from sharing an experience that few would ever try. The line that stopped her listeners cold was then dropped by her almost carelessly. "I can't even think of a single individual with whom I didn't get along." However, there were undoubtedly certain individuals who could irritate you. There was a pause, a light laugh, no further explanation, no follow-up, and the discussion continued. But like smoke in a closed chamber, the insinuation lingered in the air. It didn't take much detective work for followers who had already been following the social media dynamics to make the connections. With the exception of Kody Brown, Gia had openly engaged with almost everyone in the weeks following the cast announcement. And in this instance, she was avoiding a straight charge while allowing just enough room for conjecture to fill the gap. It was telling how restrained he was. Gia hails from a tradition of reality television, where feuds are commonplace and a name revealed at the proper time can make news. She was being both provocative and protective by not saying it directly, while guaranteeing that the drama still ended up exactly where it was supposed to. It protected her from charges of inciting drama. She and Kody couldn't have been more different from one another. She is youthful, proficient with technology, and at ease in the flexible partnerships of contemporary reality stars. He is a longtime cast member of drama that revolves around insular family dynamics, where the cast is bound by vows and blood rather than contracts and episode orders. The set may have served as a testing ground for Gia's personal development. It would have seemed alien to Kody, a place where charm must be gained during each encounter. Her remarks seemed to give a sneak peek at something seething just out of sight the more they were played back, snipped, and circulated. Was this just a brief personality conflict? Or had the insider's experience really been determined by tensions? With each repost and fan thread discussing what under your skin actually meant in relation to sand, sweat, and survival drills, the need to learn more grew. Until the season premiered, Gia's audience was left with an unsatisfied itch. And that curiosity would only grow during the silence in between episodes. Because if this is how cautiously she spoke in her own protection. Own podcast, What May We See at the Video doesn't omit anything. Andrew East and Sean Johnson didn't mince words. They spoke on their channel with the direct amazement of those who had experienced something much more brutal than they had anticipated. Only the clothing on your back and a list of 5 personal belongings are allowed, along with no phones, internet, or books, hairbrush, deodorant, and toothbrush. The options then became more limited until they were nearly pointless. Whatever consoling talismans you believe could anchor you to, you have to leave yourself behind. It was instantly the same. Everyone wore the same outfit, without jewelry, cosmetics, or anything that would identify them. Real lines appeared on faces. Before the day had even started, fatigue was evident in the eyes. Online profiles were not used as a crutch to fill in the gaps during conversations. There were no filters to soften reality or feeds to skim through for distraction. Hour after hour of living with what you saw was what you got. For Kody Brown, that, perhaps reality, was a unique form of discomfort. With his well-groomed hair, well-chosen sound bites, and camera presence, his public persona had long been a fabrication that provided a means of controlling the story. With only a comb and awareness that no one was around to appreciate the results, there would be no hair care regimen requiring a small arsenal of products here amid the dust and homogeneity. It was more than just physical deprivation. It had a psychological component. His only means of communication with his few family members had been phones. Members who continued to communicate with him on a regular basis, Robyn's unwavering presence, and the echo chamber that gave him the reassurance that he was still the focus of someone's attention. Being without something for 10 days was more than just a hassle. His identification had been interrupted. The news of his involvement was still new back home. Some family members were caught off guard and had only recently discovered it along with the general public. Robyn may have been preparing explanations to the children to help them cope with the reality that their father had departed to handle the aftermath, had vanished with strangers into an unfamiliar wilderness. Kody was unable to handle the message and smooth out the rough edges of the narrative before it spread, because he did not have a phone. This was Special Forces Design's unsaid genius. They took away control by taking away the props. Some saw it as an opportunity to find strength they were unaware they possessed. For others, it revealed the extent to which their self-assurance was reliant on outside support. The purpose of the regulations was not to penalize conceit or disengage. For the sake of novelty, they aimed to make each competitor face oneself without protection or a crowd. And that encounter may have been the most difficult aspect for a man who had worked for decades to make sure the light leaned in his favor. The lack of even minor comforts. The uniformity of a uniform that obliterated status, and the quiet of no incoming calls. These weren't bothersome things. They were small, intentional cracks, the kind that may split something open with time. Kody Brown had spent years in an environment designed to circle him. His presence was a constant within the confines of his multiple marriages and inside the framework of an ongoing television series. His thoughts awaited with the solemnity of a major character. He was the center of attention, even during war. In some way, every response, every tear, and every slammed door came full circle to him. In that setting, validation was almost always present. Robyn's was there to remind him of his significance and to restore equilibrium if one voice disagreed with him. None of that was provided by Special Forces. In Morocco, he wasn't the head of the family. The headline did not feature him. He was one of several competitors who wore the same boots, had the same equipment, and were subject to the same strict directives. No carefully edited confessional to refocus perception. No close circle to reinforce a story. Admiration wasn't a given in this minimalist setting. It has to be earned immediately. It must have been a sudden change. During the initial hours on set, when introductions and banter frequently serve as the basis for relationships, presented him with a new form of social currency. Respect was shown here to people who persevered in silence, supported others, and took the lead without making it public. Loud, unsubstantiated confidence was soon disregarded. The impartiality of this environment would have felt hostile to a man used to having every interaction mediated via a web of production needs and family politics. He had no one to remind him of his uniqueness. Nobody cared about keeping his ego safe. Discussions could, and probably did, progress. On without him, he didn't participate in the inside jokes that were exchanged. Everyone feels the same way about not being validated, so it's not a void. Some people find it liberating. It nods to others. A low-grade panic attack can occur on days when there are no modest reinforcements, nods, differential laughs, or the gentle cushioning of difference. On a show that aims to push competitors to their limits, both emotionally and physically, the question changes from what do they think of me to do they think of me at all? Doubt is damaging. It permeates performance, turning every directive into an insult and every criticism into an assessment of value rather than ability. It can sour collaboration and turn sincere partnership into a form of subservience. The heat of the desert and the drills were no longer Kody's only problems in that area. It was a gradual malnourishment of an ego that had never been left without food for very long. Additionally, the outcomes would be less concerning when the military accuracy of special forces clashed with the human desire for recognition, strength, or endurance, and more about his ability to work without being viewed as exceptional. The mental gauntlet, the portion no one anticipated, then arrived. Although special forces regulations are uncompromising, some of their most difficult trials take place long before a competitor ever sets foot in another country. Each member of the cast must undergo a psychological evaluation, so thorough it verges on forensic, regardless of their level of notoriety or physical conditioning. This is neither a quick survey or a courteous dialogue with a therapist. It is a thorough examination of your past, including the errors, humiliations, and fractures in your personal history. As Sean Johnson and Andrew East put it, every shameful headline, every personal regret, and every injury you've attempted to hide are brought to light. The examination functions similarly to an emotional X-ray machine, exposing both the visible fractures and the tiny fissures that lie behind them. Its sole objective is to provide the military leaders on the show with a detailed diagram showing your strength points and potential weak points. Furthermore, these leaders have little concern in preserving your reputation. In contrast to reality television's meticulous editing, they want to test it out, making exact impressions on the areas you don't want to be touched. Kody Brown had to carry the entire weight of his family's collapse into the desert in addition to his pack and uniform. His public life over the past 20 years has revealed his growing estrangement from several wives, his distance from children, the belief that he had created his own seclusion, whether accurate or not. He may discuss, defend, or reframe these wounds on Sister Wives. There wouldn't be a camera confessional here to hear his side of the story without interruption. The authorities were already aware of the narrative and were not interested in keeping his version of events alive. Imagine being in that assessment, with the inquiries veering beyond simple biography into the unvarnished realm of self-perception and remorse. What do you believe your kids would say regarding you? What caused those partnerships to end? What would you alter if you could? The responses are not meant to be empathetic. They are used for ammunition. These same teachers can use those realities during a drill when your body is already wailing for relief once the season starts. Transformation, not harshness, is the aim. However, transformation frequently necessitates teardown. Being on the receiving end of that dismantling can feel like ambush to someone who is accustomed to controlling the conversation. The instant your name is called with a knowing edge by the instructor, making the implicit reminder obvious. Your outfit doesn't conceal who you are, and we know it. The intriguing question is whether Kody will be forced to face the realities he has avoided for years by the show's executives. Will they bring up the fact that his entrance here caught his own kids off guard? Rather than accusing the frame, would they hold up the mirror until he acknowledges the fractures? Or is he going to withdraw behind the same barriers that have protected him in the world he created? Secondhand rumors and leaked information won't provide that answer. It will appear in the vulnerable moments when the past cannot be covered up with spin due to heat and exhaustion. And it might be both thrilling and devastating if reality TV forces Kody to confront reality at last. Morocco doesn't give in. You don't go into the desert. It is a place where you are claimed. Assessing your value by your breath, sweat, and willingness to. When every step seems like a mistake, keep going. The heat was already a living thing when the special forces arrived, radiating off the ground in waves that could be seen, pressing down with a weight that made it feel laborious to stay motionless. The fine shifting sand that slipped away from you was half an inch deep beneath the boots. Regardless of how cautiously you stepped, the horizon appeared to be fixed but never approached. This was a stage that would either determine Kody Brown's success or failure. There wasn't no voice in his ear to tell him he was doing well, no shady veranda to go to, and no camera break to gather his thoughts. The only feedback you received in the desert was from your body, the lead, the agony, the muscles you thought were strong, the salt dry on your skin, and the rasp in your throat. Distraction was eliminated by the environment's uniformity. Here, the trivial issues of who liked whom and what was posted merged into the one goal of getting through the day. However, in that perseverance, each individual, vulnerability increased. The desert's apathy was a new kind of enemy for someone like Kody, whose public image had been maintained by control over narrative, household, and image. Charm and confidence had no effect on it. It provided neither validation nor recognition. It just bided its time till someone broke first. The challenges appear to be created to combine the psychological and physical aspects into a single, unrelenting struggle when the drills got underway, holding positions in the heat while hauling equipment uphill in loose sand. The ground underneath you was cooked. When the air was too thin to share, they ran in formation. Every second served as a reminder that pride and the body have their limits. It was impossible to overlook the place's symbolic significance. The desolate surroundings reflected the seclusion that many people thought Kody had established for himself at home. A vast, unforgiving region with few connections where surviving required adjusting to a lack of loyalty, trust, and convenient comfort. As in life, individuals who were unable to adjust in the desert ran the risk of being abandoned. Hours could drag on for what seemed like days. 10 days could seem like a long period of exile, and each one can seem longer than the last to someone who has been deprived of the levers of influence he has depended on for decades. Fine grains of sand were transported by every wind gust and adhered to skin, clothes, and equipment, creating a silent, continuous annoyance in every scene that reflected the way doubt may enter and remain. This was more than just a contest. The object was a crucible. There was no intermediate ground in the desert. You either came out tempered or weakened. Without control, those 10 days would seem like a lifetime to Kody Brown. It was up to the desert to decide whether they left him broken or sharper. Even the most chatty contestants are kept silent by the type of non-disclosure agreements that keep the footage hidden away. Nothing more is officially scheduled till the start of the season. Informally, there is already a lot of conjecture in the air. Threads analyze each and every random remark made by cast members, a social media footage of an interview with all the unclear emojis in the caption. The area between what is known and what is only speculated at is where this type of fan detective work flourishes. Additionally, the Sister Wives community is currently engaged in a full-scale investigation. It's more important than a single season of TV. Kody Brown's involvement in Special Forces coincides with a tumultuous period in his public life. Sister Wives is slowly approaching its 20th season, which was formerly considered a significant milestone. Impossible for such a broken household. For the first time in years, several shows in the polygamy reality subgenre will overlap when Seeking Sister Wife returns, nearly simultaneously with Special Forks premiere. There may be a prolonged run of headlines, programs, and internet discussion from September into October, a month of polygamy drama without any inherent breaks. The timing is electric for the devoted viewers. They will monitor Special Forces to mine every one of them, not only to see who completes the course. Framework for understanding Kody's mental health, adaptability, and willingness or inability to face himself. After that, they'll switch to Sister Wives to see if anything from Morocco enters his family story. Audience cross-pollination virtually ensures that scenes from one program will serve as the basis for conversations about the other. However, Kody remains mute during this waiting period. There are no fun teases of what's to come or indications of behind-the-scenes friendship. For A, the silence is noteworthy for a man who has frequently constructed his own biography in real time. Is discipline being held back for the greatest impact on television? Or is he left with less to say than he had anticipated due to the aftershock of an experience that defied his control? The suspense feeds itself. Fans conjecture about the difficulties, as well as the changes that will be made. He is framed by special forces as a man who is defeated by his own stubbornness, or as the underdog who triumphs. Not all of the truth will come at once. It will be administered once a week. It gets worse with every episode. Another reason to stay watching is every cliffhanger. There's just a countdown for now. When you know something is coming but can't see it yet, the weeks seem to drag on. As the season draws nearer, the curiosity grows every day. Already, the desert has spoken. What the rest of us see will now be determined by the edit. Only the ripples are visible to us. The storm is on its way, and it won't only put Kody Brown to the test when it strikes. It will put his developed narratives and allegiances to the test. He's relied upon, as well as the audience's readiness to view him differently. Time is running out, and this was just the start. Every unresolved issue, rumor, and silent moment will be addressed when Special Forces eventually airs. And I'll be right here, explaining everything to you. This is TLC Soapbox, where you can watch the biggest reality TV upsets, the behind-the-scenes realities, and the drama that no one ever imagined you would see. My name is Amin. Thus hit, the true narrative is just beginning. So hit the subscribe button, put on the bell, and prepare.